Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com. I'm back. Yay. I would never have stayed away for 2 or 3 weeks if by choice. It was abrupt. The day that I did my last video, which was on the Tarot for All deck, that day I had gone to visit my brother. And it was interesting because the question I put to the Tarot for All deck, just to do a demonstration quickie, was, how will my brother and my relationship evolve, or something to that nature. Now, I wasn't necessarily just thinking about me and my brother. It was just a question to put out there about anyone with their brother, right? So I can't rightly say that it was focused on my brother, and I didn't go into my meditative place or anything. It was just like an impromptu, I need a question, tell me about my relationship with my brother, and then I did a quick read. Well, the irony is that I had visited my brother that day. So that morning I had visited my brother, I came home, I did a video. I caught COVID from him because while I was with him, he told me he wasn't feeling good. And then I asked him, did he have a sore throat and did he have a runny nose? And he said he did. So I was like, oh man. So I went to the nursing staff because my brother's in a facility. I went to the nursing staff, told them that he was presenting with a cold. Now I had visited him with a mask on. I had mask on, and I cleaned my hands while I was there 3 times with hand sanitizer because I'm a lunatic when it comes to this stuff. But excuse me for coughing. But I still caught it. So within 24 hours, or not even, it was probably within 18 hours of having seen him, I started to present with a sore throat and a bad headache, really bad. Those were my first 2 symptoms. And I told my husband, and I went into quarantine. I immediately isolated from him because, neither of us have caught COVID yet. This was the first time either of us caught COVID. So I was the first one. We managed to get through COVID without catching it. But there was a COVID incident at my brother's facility, and thinking, being very cavalier. I had all my vaccinations, including the one for this most recent strain. So I had that one too, about 2 weeks before I caught it. So I don't know how effective that last vaccine was yet. I'm not sure. Maybe it helped a little bit. So I was kind of feeling cocky, we can do this. We've had all our vaccines, right? So I just went and had my mask on and cleaned my hands the whole time I was there. And when he told me he was sick, I left, told them. But yeah, it hit me quick. And it hit hard. My temperature went up to 103, So I'm just telling you guys, this thing is still out there. And it seems as though I had the most recent strain because all my symptoms were pretty typical for the recent strain, which is supposed to be extremely very easily contagious, maybe more than the others. And it has a longer life. I tested positive. I had symptoms. I still have symptoms, but I tested positive with symptoms until day 14. On the 14th day, I still tested positive. I guess it was the 15th day I tested negative for the first time. And so I'm just letting you guys know, this thing is a little bit, it's still out there. I'm 65 years old. I'm in decent health. I did recently lose 70 pounds, so that was a good thing. And COVID inspired me to lose weight because I was obese, and I was just very concerned that I would get sick, bad. And as it was, I got sick enough. I had 103 fever. I was not feeling great, And anyway, so now the only thing that really is, I came down with sickness on the 11th. So I think now is the 28th. So now it's 17 days later, and I still have some symptoms. I'm still having a little bit of a runny nose. I still have a cough. So But I feel well, and I'm tired. Exhaustion is big. Like I'm taking a nap every day at some point, and I never took naps, never, not once. So now I'm taking naps, so it's a new thing. So at any rate, I'm back, and that, if I'm ever gone for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it's because something happened. I never would go that long. Usually I just go a couple days. I do have my window open to get some fresh air, so if you hear any noise outside, it's just my neighbors. Today's video is like so long in doing. Is the Rolichon, I think I'm saying it properly, Nicolas Rolichon Tarot of Marseille by Benedetti. And I received this deck the day I did my most recent video on the Tarot for All. It had come in the mail that evening, and so I figured the next day, the day I got sick, I would do the video. So, I told Marco, I verified when I received it, and I told him I'd be doing a video right away. So I'm so sad that it's taken me all this time to get to it, but I really was not well enough to come into my tarot parlor to do it. And so this is the first day that I'm well enough to really sit and talk for a half an hour or whatever it takes. As always with Marco's decks, there's a range, right? You can get very economical decks from Marco, but then he also has like beautiful decks, like, beautifully made, handmade, decks with beautiful boxes, as this one is. It does not have a date on it. It's simply the Nicolas Rolichon Tarot of Marseille, Marco Benedetti. And the front of the box, again, identifies it as Tarot of Marseille, Fact Lyon. Okay, so it's manufactured in Lyon by Nicolas Rolichon, and it's restored by Marco Benedetti in Rome 2019 with his signature. And I guess the date, April of 2023. And, it's a beautiful deck, a beautiful box, real nicely done. I think it's a handmade box too, I'm pretty sure they are. The cards, a nice thickness. And I'm peeking. They look nice. I haven't taken it out of order. I'm doing it in the order I received it. Let's do a quick, look at that. Beautiful. Nice sound. It's a little thick, I'll try to shuffle after. You see how it shuffles after the video. Now, I have some information. I asked, when I received it, I sent Marco a private message, and I asked him if there were any points that I should know, when discussing this deck. I try to just do videos where I make my own observations, but if I have access to the creator and I have some insight from that person about what they were thinking, or how they went about, restoring a deck, I'll get that information if it's available to me. So that's what I did. So let me flip the camera and we'll get started. So Marco told me the story of how he went about this deck. He had black and white photographs, and apparently that's all that exist are photographs of this original deck. He used he used the coloration, he used a modern technique to color to make the color for the palette for the deck. And for the color palette, he said he referred to TDM conventions and was particularly inspired by Fleur Noir's deck, right? So the color of Fleur Noir and the method of Fleur Noir is I think what Marco was saying was his greatest inspiration. He reconstructed or recreated the missing pip cards. There were some missing pip cards, and there were 12 court cards. And to do that, he used the Dodal and Payen for inspiration. The Nicolas Rolichon deck is a little bit of a mystery. Black and white images of the Triumph cards, so there were plus the Madman card, so the 21 cards plus Le Fool were all intact in black and white. And there were only 13 pips. Now, he doesn't elaborate which pips were the ones that were original, that still had, still have photographs of them. However, we do know the Two of Coins is one of the cards that was original, because if it weren't for the Two of Coins, we wouldn't know who created the deck. So we know it was created in Lyon by Nicolas Rolichon. Now, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. The black and white images of the trump cards and the pip cards and the cards that were in existence to have made an original photograph in the first place appeared in a French magazine, and I can't pronounce the name of the magazine, so I'm not going to try. But in 1919, apparently, the images, black and white images of this deck appeared in a French magazine, and they must have been a decent quality, because, it must have been a first generation photograph, because they were a really, really good quality. And they suggest that they came from the original woodblocks. Regrettably, at some point after those photographs were taken for the magazine, the original deck is considered lost. And of the 78 original cards, only 35 cards are all that we have access to as a result of it having been photographed for that French magazine in 1919. The deck is identified based on the Two of Coins, which I pointed out already, which has inscribed, manufactured or created in Lyon by Nicolas Rolichon. Now, if I guess Marco did a little bit of investigative work and discovered that there was a father and son card-making team in Lyon active between 1572 and 83 for the dad, and 1605 to 35 for the son. The latest of these possible dates, 1635, is still 15 years before the Noblet, which is kind of interesting, because from what Marco says later on, it is a TDM1. So, this would be 15 years before the Noblet, which we had credited for being the earliest Noblet. Now we know that there's another one, the Vachier. I think that's what it's called. But at any rate, this one does not have a date on it that we can conclusively say this is from 1635 or 1582 or whatever. But there is disagreement with historians, because the clues suggest that the latest date that this would have been created would have been 1635. However, there are differences of opinion with historians who think that 1635 is way too early to date this deck. And despite there not being any evidence of any card makers by that name in Lyon in the latter part of the 1600s, they still think that the conclusion of most historians is that this deck was not created until the end of the 1600s. But it's still one of the oldest known TDMs, and particularly type 1. And Marco seemingly made his copies from an eBay copy of the original magazine. So it seems from what I read that Marco actually was able to get his hands on an actual copy of the 1919 magazine, and he made his copies from that. So that's as close to the source as we have for this deck. So let's take a look at this work and this craftsmanship of this deck. As I already indicated, it's a little thick, but it moves. It just handles like butter. It's nice. So the background is, if it's cream, it's extremely pale cream. It's mostly like a white. And I think it's a white. The color in my room may be a little yellow because of the overhead light. And remember, I indicated, reading Marco's notes to me, that he was inspired by the Fleur Noir color. We see the number 4, which I think Fleur Noir indicated or believes is a mark of the engraver, right? I think his name was Mermet, something like that. And for whatever reason, Mermet, or the original engraver, put it on the 4th card. Maybe he did that deliberately. He figured, well, the 4th card is a good place to put a symbol that looks like a 4. And maybe that is why the emperor sits in a 4 configuration. Who knows? Maybe whoever originally came up with this idea did it on purpose, and reinforced, kind of like a trademark, right? He sits like a 4. He's the number 4, and the symbol is a 4. Of course, that's just me going off the rails a little bit. It doesn't mean it's true. And again, we have the shepherd's stick, without the 3 horizontal lines of what we see in later TDM decks. I do apologize for coughing. A reference to the stigmata. I don't think it is the stigmata. Those look like he's wearing gloves, but who knows, because the rest of their flesh is paper white too, so I don't know. Okay, we have the Cupid figure, or the Eros figure, coming in from this direction, and he is blindfolded. Boy, the lines are crisp and clear. Oh, beautiful. Real clean. We have the canopied scalloped edge of the chariot coach. The black ground. I've commented on this in a few places, the knee. Ambiguous, is it a lantern or is it a sundial, not a sundial, a hourglass, but probably not an hourglass, because there seems to be some attention to detail of the inside of the cloak being lit, so it's probably representing a light. The wheel goes this way. As far as the texture goes, it's really, you can see a texture, right? You can see the texture. It's a luxury deck. It's a real nice cardstock, corner edged, not rounded. Okay, we have the fingers behind the back of the hanged one with his tongue sticking out. Death is going in a different direction than I think in the Noblet, the death goes in that direction. So it goes in a different direction. Again, the black ground. We have temperance. We see reference to her anatomy. We have certain details in wings that we see in other decks. We have details in the devil, in the face, in the belly, perhaps even in the knees. We see that elsewhere. So this is clearly a TDM 1. you know, there's no indication where this is coming from. Is it coming from here or from here? But it kind of looks like it's coming from and going up from the tower. Full facing moon with some sort of event happening behind it. Maybe some type of eclipse. We have a flag or a banner on the horn of the angel. And we don't see this, the backwards C or the, you know, the formation of a C or of a backwards C in the, you know, in a cloak, you know, or a ribbon or a cape or anything. Here we just have a straight up, it's a cape in the back. There's some kind of skirt hiding the private area with the 4 symbols we're accustomed to seeing in the corners. Okay. Now, I think he said 13 of the, no, 12 of the quartz had to be recreated. I think that's what my notes indicate. Which, if that's the case, then some did exist. And I think Marco said that he used the Dodal and the Payen to fill in some gaps. So I don't know which were the original that were missing. But he used what he knew to replace the ones that were missing. So we have the 10 in that direction, which we're accustomed to seeing. And we only had 13 originals, so I don't know which the originals were. But it's seamless. We wouldn't know. We wouldn't know which cards were missing based on this, you know. And Marco's seen a few decks, you know, so he knows, he makes good sound decisions. I've read his, you see the back, the ground rather, black. I think we saw it in the other card too. Let me see. You know, we know that Marco knows his way around a deck. Yeah. He knows what he's looking for. He knows as much as anyone. So I wouldn't be able to tell which ones that Marco had to recreate. So it's pretty seamless, nicely done. In the black. So this is a nice clean deck. We know that this was one of the original cards because that's how we can identify the name and location. Here we go. So let me do a quick shuffle, see how they work. And they, like I mentioned, it is a little thick. Well, I'm sure if I had just a little bit of a longer stretch, I'd be able to do it much better. But now I'll probably shuffle these cards this way. You know, that's probably how I'll do it for this deck. So I hope you enjoyed seeing this beautiful deck, which is a little bit of a mystery deck, right? There's, even though the historians think that it came from the late 1600s, the only evidence we have suggests it comes earlier. But who knows? I'll be back in a couple days, God willing, and we'll use this deck to do a sample demonstration reading. I also want to mention that I have another deck that I'm really looking forward to perusing. Right before I got sick, I had my eye on a deck by the folks over at, let me flip the camera, by the folks over at Artisan Tarot, because they are always coming out with something exciting. I know they have another tarot deck coming out. Now I didn't pursue that one, but I did have an interest in their playing cards, because I do collect playing cards, and I am interested in historic playing cards, not just tarot. And I saw that they had a playing card deck that they recreated, and it really interests me. So I was able to get that. And so I'll be showing that. I'll be reviewing that soon. It's called Game of Cards, or Jeu de Cartes à Portrait du Paris, and I have two decks. So I'm really looking forward to perusing this deck in a few days. After I do my second Marco video. So until next time, friends, stay well, peace, and stay well.